The diplomatic chamber aboard the Vareth flagship was magnificent. Crystalline walls that shifted through colors James couldn't name, gravity that felt just slightly off, and an atmosphere thick with tension that no translator could interpret. James stood at attention, his dress uniform crisp despite the 3-day journey through the warp gate. Behind him, Ambassador Chen whispered final instructions, but James barely heard her. His eyes were fixed on the throne at the far end of the chamber, where Empress Aliana of the Varath Collective sat in regal silence. The briefing had been extensive. The Vareth were an ancient species. They'd been traversing the stars when humanity was still learning to make fire. Their empire spanned 14 systems. Their technology was centuries beyond Earth's best efforts, and their military could reduce the Sol system to cosmic dust with minimal effort. And humanity had accidentally destroyed one of their mining outposts. It was supposed to be an uninhabited asteroid. The survey data had been clear, but apparently the Vareth had cloaking technology that made their operations invisible to human sensors. 300 Vareth workers had died when the Human Mining Corporation detonated the asteroid for mineral extraction. The collective had demanded reparations. Not in currency or resources, but in something far more puzzling. A human emissary to serve at the Empress's court for one standard cycle. A cultural exchange, they called it. A hostage, Earth's military called it. James had volunteered. Now, as Empress Aliana rose from her throne and descended the steps toward him, James understood why the xenobiologists had struggled to describe her species accurately. The Vareth were humanoid, yes, but calling them that was like calling a supernova bright. Aliana stood nearly 7 feet tall, her skin a luminous silver blue that seemed to generate its own soft light. Her features were angular, sharp, with high cheekbones and large eyes that held 3 distinct colors swirling in each iris: gold, violet, and deep crimson. Her hair, if it could be called that, floated around her head like liquid mercury frozen in zero gravity. She wore robes that appeared to be woven from starlight itself, but it was her presence that truly struck James. An overwhelming sense of power, wisdom, and something else. Something that made his translator implant buzz with confusion as it tried to interpret the pheromones. His human brain couldn't consciously detect Ambassador Chen, Lieutenant James, Harper. Aliana's voice was melodic, resonant, carrying harmonics that made the words feel like music. The collective acknowledges your presence. Chen bowed deeply. James followed her lead, though his bow was slightly awkward. A year of 0G combat training didn't prepare you for alien court etiquette. Your Radiance, Chen began. We come with the deepest apologies of the United Earth government. The tragedy at Outpost Varath 7 was... Aliana raised one elegant hand and Chen fell silent immediately. The formal apologies have been received and archived, the Empress said. We are not here to rehash what has been settled. Lieutenant Harper will serve his term, and our peoples will learn from one another. This is the path forward. Chen nodded, relief evident on her face. She'd been terrified the negotiations would collapse. Thank you, Your Radiance. I will convey... You may leave us. Aliana interrupted, her eyes fixed entirely on James. I wish to speak with the lieutenant alone. James felt his stomach drop. This wasn't in the briefing. Chen hesitated, shot James a worried glance, then bowed again and retreated from the chamber. The massive doors sealed behind her with a soft hiss. Silence stretched between them. Aliana circled James slowly, studying him with an intensity that made him feel like a specimen under a microscope. Her robes whispered against the crystalline floor. Your people are young, she said finally. Impulsive, destructive. You reach for the stars with hands still covered in the blood of your own kind. James swallowed hard. Yes, Your Radiance. We are... imperfect. And yet, Aliana continued, stopping directly in front of him. You volunteered to come here, knowing you might never return to your world, knowing we could execute you for your species crime if we chose. Why? James met her eyes, those impossible swirling eyes. Because 300 people died because of our mistake. Someone had to answer for that. Someone had to try to make it right. You feel responsible? You were not even born when your mining corporations began their operations. I'm human, James said simply. That makes me responsible. Something shifted in Aliana's expression, surprise perhaps or respect. She stepped closer, close enough that James could see the patterns of light dancing beneath her skin, like constellations moving in fast forward. My advisors said your species lacks honor, she said quietly, that you are too young, too savage to understand sacrifice. Your advisors don't know us very well, James replied. Then immediately worried he'd crossed a line, but Aliana's lips curved, a smile, unmistakable despite the alien features. No, they do not. She turned away, moving toward the viewport that dominated one wall. Beyond it, stars streaked past in the distorted colors of warp travel. I studied your world, Lieutenant Harper, before I agreed to this arrangement. I read your histories, your literature, your philosophy. Do you know what I found most fascinating about humanity? What, your radiance? You create beauty in the midst of horror. Your wars produce poets. Your suffering creates art. You stare into the void of an uncaring universe and respond with music, with stories, with love. She glanced back at him. The Varath have forgotten how to do this. We are ancient, powerful, wise, but we are also cold. James didn't know what to say to that. The briefing hadn't covered philosophical discussions with alien empresses. Aliana turned to face him fully, and in the warp light her features seemed to shift, becoming almost ethereal. For the next cycle you will serve as my cultural liaison. You will teach me about humanity, and I will teach you about the Varath. Perhaps we can prevent future tragedies through understanding. I'll do my best, Your Radiance. Aliana, she corrected softly. When we are alone, you may call me Aliana. James blinked in surprise. The briefing had been very clear. Never use the Empress's name directly. It was considered deeply intimate, almost scandalous. Aliana, he said carefully, testing the word. It felt strange on his tongue, dangerous somehow. She smiled again, wider this time, and James realized something with startling clarity. She was beautiful. Not in a human way. Not in any way his brain was wired to recognize, and yet the truth of it hit him like a physical force. You're so beautiful I can't even speak, he blurted out, then immediately felt his face flush hot with embarrassment. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that was completely inappropriate. He stopped because Aliana's skin had changed color. The silver blue was shifting, brightening, turning into what could only be described as bright red. It spread from her face down her neck, visible even through her robes. Her three-colored eyes went wide. The translator implant buzzed frantically in James's ear, finally finding a word. Blushing. You. Aliana's voice had lost its regal composure. You cannot simply say such things to an empress. I know, I'm sorry. I didn't think. In Varath culture, such declarations are... She turned away, her color still that brilliant red. They are reserved for bonded pairs. For deep intimacy. James wanted the floor to open and swallow him. I didn't know. I swear I was just... It's something humans say sometimes when we're overwhelmed by... By what? Aliana asked, her back still turned. By beauty. James finished quietly. By seeing something so extraordinary we can't process it properly. And the words just come out. Silence filled the chamber again. But this time it felt different. Charged. Slowly, Aliana turned back to face him. The red was fading from her skin, but not entirely. Your species is very dangerous, Lieutenant Harper. James, he offered. If I get to use your name, you should use mine. Her expression softened. James, then. She pronounced it carefully like something precious. This will be an interesting cycle indeed. As the warp light painted colors across her face and her skin slowly returned to its normal luminescence, James realized that maybe, just maybe, humanity's greatest weapon wasn't its ships or its technology or its military might. Maybe it was simply the ability to see beauty in the alien and unfamiliar, and to speak that truth without fear, even if it did make galactic empresses turn bright red. ND.